Welcome back to Unlock, Empower, Transform with Che Blackmon. I'm your host, and today is episode 14, The Feedback Revolution, Creating Cultures of Continuous Improvement. Let me start with a confession. Early in my HR career, I watched a company spend 3 months preparing for annual reviews. 3 months? The amount of paperwork could have built a small fortress. And you know what happened? Managers rushed through them in 20 minutes, employees left confused, and absolutely nothing changed. Sound familiar? Today, we're dismantling the outdated annual review system and building something that actually works. Continuous feedback cultures that drive real improvement. And yes, I'll give you a sneak peek into the game-changing feedback systems I teach in my high-value leadership intensive course. Let's talk about why traditional feedback fails. In high-value leadership, I outline how annual reviews are like trying to improve your golf swing by only checking it once a year. Ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly what most organizations do with their most valuable asset, their people. Here's what I've learned after transforming feedback cultures across multiple industries. The problem isn't feedback itself, it's the system. Annual reviews create fear, not growth. They judge the past instead of building the future. They make feedback an event instead of a habit. When I worked with that automotive company I mentioned in my book, we completely revolutionized their approach. Instead of dreaded annual reviews, we implemented what I call the Harmony Framework. And let me tell you, the results were extraordinary. Engagement scores jumped 40% in 6 months, not because we gave better reviews, but because we stopped doing reviews and started having conversations. The Harmony Framework from Chapter 7 creates sustainable growth through continuous improvement. Let me break it down. H stands for honor your rhythms. Some teams need daily check-ins, others thrive with weekly touch points. There's no one size fits all. A is align priorities. Every feedback conversation should connect to larger goals. Otherwise, you're just chatting. R means ritualize renewal. Make feedback as routine as your morning coffee. When it's consistent, it stops being scary. M is manage technology. Use tools that support connection, not replace it. I've seen companies hide behind apps when what they needed was actual conversation. O stands for optimize support. Feedback without resources is just criticism. Always pair insights with support. N is nurture joy. Yes, joy. If your feedback culture feels like a dental appointment, you're doing it wrong. Y means yield to rest. Not every moment needs to be a coaching moment. Sometimes people just need space to integrate what they've learned. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In my High Value Leadership Intensive course, I teach 3 revolutionary feedback systems that transform how teams communicate. First, there's the pulse check protocol. Imagine having real-time insight into team health without those awful engagement surveys. We're talking 5-minute weekly rhythms that actually create change. Second, the growth dialogue framework turns difficult conversations into development opportunities. No more feedback sandwiches that fool nobody. Just honest, productive dialogue that builds trust. And third, this one's my favorite, the appreciation amplifier. Because here's what nobody talks about. Positive feedback is just as broken as constructive feedback. Most leaders think a generic good job counts as recognition. It doesn't. Let me share a quick story. Last year, I coached a director who was terrified of giving feedback. She'd rather eat glass than tell someone they needed improvement. Using the Shield Resilience strategy, which you can download for free by the way, we worked on her internal resources. Remember, the I in SHIELD stands for internal resources, and one key component is developing emotional regulation skills. We practiced using the self-compassion techniques from the guide until she could separate feedback from conflict. 6 months later, her team voted her best manager in the company, not because she became soft, but because she learned to deliver truth with grace. Here's your quick exercise for this week. I call it the 2-Touch Tuesday. Every Tuesday, have 2 feedback conversations. Just 2. Here's the structure. First conversation, appreciation. Find someone who's done something well and tell them specifically what impact it had. Not great job on that report, but your analysis in section 3 helped me make a critical decision about our budget allocation. Second conversation, growth. Share one observation that could help someone improve. Frame it as I noticed, followed by what if we tried? That's it. 2 conversations, 5 minutes each. Do this for 4 weeks and watch your culture shift. Look, I get it. Change is hard. When I first implemented continuous feedback at that nonprofit I worked for, people thought I'd lost my mind. We don't have time for all this talking, they said. But here's what happened. We stopped spending 40 hours on annual reviews that changed nothing. Instead, we invested 10 minutes a week in conversations that changed everything. Retention improved, performance soared, and get this, people actually looked forward to feedback. The Shield Resilience Strategy Guide I keep mentioning, it includes a whole section on daily practices that support continuous improvement. Download it, and you'll see how building resilience and building feedback cultures go hand in hand. The morning mindfulness practice alone will transform how you show up for difficult conversations. Here's the bottom line. The feedback revolution isn't about doing more. It's about doing better. It's about replacing fear with growth, judgment with development, and annual panic with daily progress. Your action items for this week: 1. Download the Shield Resilience Strategy Guide. Seriously, it's free and it'll change how you approach challenging conversations. 2. Try the Two-Touch Tuesday exercise. 3. Notice what shifts when feedback becomes a habit instead of an event. Drop a comment and let me know how your Two-Touch Tuesday goes. What did you discover? What surprised you? And if you're ready to completely transform your organization's feedback culture, check out my High Value Leadership Intensive course. We dive deep into all 3 feedback systems I mentioned today, plus so much more. Next Thursday, we're talking about measuring what matters, high value leadership ROI, because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And trust me, I've got some surprising insights about what actually drives ROI in high value cultures. Until next time, keep unlocking your potential, empowering others, and transforming your world.